Good evening. Welcome to tonight's candidate debate sponsored by the League of Women Voters of Lackawanna County and the Political Science Department of the University of Scranton. My name is Ann Domsky, President of the Board for the League of Women Voters of Lackawanna County. The League is a nonpartisan organization, which means that we do not support or oppose any political party or candidate. The mission of the League is to promote political responsibility through the informed and active participation by citizens in their government. We are a grassroots, member-driven, all-volunteer organization. We encourage you to join the League of Women Voters. It's open to both men and women. Membership information can be found in your program, or you may go to our website at lwvlackawanna.org. Please support our work by making a donation on your way out tonight. Donations help us to cover costs, including video recording, so that these events can be viewed by a wider audience. Volunteers will be at the back of the room and will be happy to accept your donation. ECTV is recording tonight's debate. This is not a live broadcast. The recorded event will be aired on Comcast 19 local television, so please check the ECTV schedule, which can also be found in your program. The recorded debate will also be available on YouTube via links from our website by tomorrow. Please see your program for information on the upcoming debate for the Lackawanna County Commissioners. This debate will be held here on Tuesday, October 22nd at 6:30 p.m. Also see the information for viewing the event as noted in your program. The League will conduct recorded interviews of candidates for Lackawanna County Controller and Scranton School Board. We also want to make you aware of a very special community program that will explain to Scranton voters the ballot question that they will see regarding a proposed change to the system of tax collection for the Scranton School District. This event, as noted in your program, will be held at 6 p.m. on Monday, October 21st. Before voting, you may want to study a sample ballot. A sample ballot can be found at the Lackawanna County Elections website. The general election will be on Tuesday, November 5th. In a general election, all voters, including independents and members of any political party, may vote for the candidates of their choice, irrespective of party. Be aware that the deadline for registering to vote has already passed for this election. However, if you are not registered to vote, please be sure to do so at the Lackawanna County Department of Elections or the Pennsylvania State Voter Registration website prior to the May 2020 primary. A few procedural items for the audience. Please turn off or silence your phones and other devices. Please be aware that it is our policy that no person, candidate, or political group is allowed to use or edit any media from the League of Women Voters Lackawanna County event for campaign purposes. Any use of the media requires the express written approval of the League of Women Voters of Lackawanna County. No excerpts or sound bites may be taken from tonight's event. Tonight's event is among candidates for the Scranton City Council. Andrea Mulrine will serve as moderator for tonight's event. She is currently on the board of the League of Women Voters of Lackawanna County and a past president. Andrea?
Good evening, everyone, and thank you, Ann. I'd also like to extend my thanks to the University of Scranton, Dr. Jean Harris, and the Political Science Department for co-sponsoring the events for everything that we're doing this election season, and also to ECTV for their ongoing support of what we do. Just a couple of informational things about tonight's debate. The candidates are seated alphabetically on stage. They have not been given any questions in advance. There will be no opening statements, but each candidate will be allowed a 2-minute closing statement. We drew names to see who would answer the first question first, and that will be Jessica. And we also drew names to see who would give the first closing statement, and that will be Andy. And then we'll go in a round robin from that point on. Responses are timed, and they'll have 2 minutes to answer each question, and we just ask them that they finish their thought when the time limit goes on. And each candidate will be allowed up to 3 one-minute rebuttals that they can use either all at once or one at a time, however they see fit to do it. And with that, I'd like to introduce our candidates for this evening. And I will do a brief introduction, and I will tell the candidates if I haven't covered something that you feel it's important that the the audience know, then I ask that when you're giving your statements, that you include that information on what your bio is. First, we have Andy Chomko. He was born and resides in Scranton. He and his wife, Bridget, have a son, Elias Jude, who I know is back here with us today. He's a 2003 graduate of West Scranton High School, and he holds an associate's in business administration from Lackawanna College, as well as an associate's in mortuary science from Northampton Community College. He's a fourth-generation funeral director in his family business, the Edward J. Chomko Funeral Home and Cremation Services, and he also worked in law enforcement at Tobyhanna Army Depot from 2012 to 2015. He did run and win in the May primary, which was his first foray into the public arena, and he has a military background as an Army Ranger, serving 4 tours of combat duty in Iraq and Afghanistan, and he's the recipient of numerous badges and medals. His civic experience includes helping to reinstate the Lackawanna College Veterans Club, co-founder and VP, Vice President of Fight for Vets, treasurer of the West Scranton Neighborhood Association, and he's a member of the Knights of Columbus. The one thing that I did forget to say is please hold your applause and any comments until your candidate is giving their closing statement. So with that, let me move on to our next candidate, Mark McAndrew. Mark resides in West Scranton with his wife, Anne Marie, and 3 daughters, Mariah, Mackenzie, and Marky. He's a graduate of West Scranton High School, earned his associate's degree from the Culinary Institute of America, and his vocational educational teaching certificate from Temple University. He's a culinary arts instructor at the Career Technology Center of Lackawanna County, and formerly worked for Compass Group USA, Flick International, a large contract food service company. He was elected to and has served on the Scranton School Board for the past 5 years, and he's active in several civic organizations, including the St. Patrick's Day Parade Committee, Westside Black Sheep Association, and is an ambassador for Cookies for Kids, Pediatric Cancer Research, and Friends of the Poor. Welcome to you as well. And next we have Jessica Rothchild. Dr. Rothchild was born in Red Bank, New Jersey, resides in Scranton with her wife, Bridget McIntyre. She's a 2007 graduate of Red Bank Catholic High School and earned her Doctor of Physical Therapy and a Bachelor of Exercise Science from the University of Scranton. She's a physical therapist in outpatient therapy for the Lehigh Valley Health Network. She was elected to a 4-year term on the Pennsylvania Democratic State Committee in May of 2018. She serves actively in numerous civic organizations, including as a commissioner for the Pennsylvania Commission for Women and the Scranton Human Relations Commission, Progressive Women of Northeastern Pennsylvania, Lackawanna County Federation of Democratic Women, Vice Chair of the 112th District County Democratic Committee, and former President of Scranton Inclusion, an LGBTQ student organization at the University of Scranton, and the Secretary of the LGBTQ Caucus for the Democratic State Party. So candidates, welcome. Thank you for being here with us this evening, and we'll get started with questions now. So the first question, again, will go to Jessica first, and you'll have 2 minutes to answer the question. Talk about your candidacy. What do you see as the most important function of City Council, and what qualities do you possess that will make you an effective member of City Council?
Great. Thank you for the question, and thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting these debates and providing the opportunity for voters to become educated on the candidates and the issues. I also appreciate the University of Scranton, my alma mater, for hosting these debates. I have a lot of great memories from this room here. So to answer your question, I think it was a threefold question related to my candidacy, and I'd like to start off by saying I think even though we're in the same place tonight, we're in a very different place than when we were when the first debate occurred in May before the primary. We've had a primary election since. We've had our mayor resign and go under, have corruption charges and among other things. We have an interim mayor, we have an interim city council member, and we have a special election coming up. So there's a lot going on in Scranton politics right now. But I think people still feel like we are on the cusp of change. We have the opportunity here to really make things different for the future of Scranton. And I'm really excited to be a part of that. Our candidacy my candidacy has been, I think, really positive throughout. We have been focused on increasing transparency in the city, modernizing communication, strengthening our neighborhoods and local businesses, among a few other things. But I think that City Council really is responsible for adding legislation and protections and policies that will make Scranton a better and healthier place.
Okay, thank you. Andy, the question goes to you now.
Could you repeat the question, please?
Sure. What do you see as the most important function of City Council, and what qualities do you possess that will make you an effective member of City Council?
Thank you. Thank you, Andrea. Thank you to all of you that are here tonight. Thank you to the League of Women Voters of Lackawanna County for organizing this, and thank you to the University of Scranton for providing the venue. And of course, thank you to my baby boy who was back there crying earlier, but apparently he's gone now. Thank you to my family for sticking by my side during this madness that they call politics in Scranton. The most important function of City Council is to provide legislation for all of us to abide by. It's the function of City Council needs to provide a clear and direct message to its constituents and to our people, to our citizens. What I can bring to the table is military experience on the federal level and the military side, civilian side and the military side, business experience, my own personal experience in the city. For far too long, everyone has known what is going on in this city, and here I am, a rookie, coming into it. I gotta say, I didn't do too bad for the first time doing it, guys. I had no idea what I was getting into. But everyone knows what's wrong with the city. People are leaving here because taxes are too high. Our friends and our families are going to the next town over because if they picked up that piece of property that they had and they moved it over, it would double, triple, or quadruple in value. I would like to bring value back to our city. I would like to bring integrity back to our city. I'd like to bring more transparency, definitely accountability. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark, that question goes to you now. What do you see as the most important function of City Council, and what qualities do you possess that will make you an effective member of City Council?
Okay, thank you. So first of all, thank you to the League of Women Voters, and thank you to all of you for coming out tonight. Function, the most important function, I believe, is developing policy, creating ordinances, being the watchdog for the city. A lot has happened since the primary, like Ms. Rothchild said. We're moving in the right direction. So what I think the most effective things one can do as a council member or myself, is I bring experience. I've been on a board. I develop policy. I was a minority member, but that doesn't mean I wasn't a fighter. I see a lot of great things happening since the primary with regards to the ethics committee, changing the way we do business and not using cash anymore. What I think we have to do to be effective is to be a good listener. I've been a good listener on the board. I was always reachable, approachable. I answered any email, any phone call. I believe I would still do that. That's how things get done, is listening to people. I've been on a tour of neighborhood associations, knocking on doors. I hear the common thread is people, they just want to be heard. So a good, effective member is going to address that and listen and provide feedback and then be honest. I mean, equality should be honesty because that fosters transparency. I believe that we have to be more open with our government. I believe I bring or hope to bring some faith back into city government because that's what we lack right now because of the condition we're in. So thank you.
Thank you. Andy, this next question goes to you first, and I want to talk about the sewer and what we've seen in the news recently. So recent news reports indicate that $17 million from the sale of the sewer system may be lost because of the failure to meet an unpublicized deadline for securing easements for 600 sewage lines that cross private property. What steps will you take to hold the lawyers who negotiated the sales agreement on behalf of the city accountable? And you've got 2 minutes.
Well, whoever's going to be elected mayor has their plate full with that, and I would be willing to support any candidate that has an actual plan, and a plan that I agree with. And of course, that's very broad to say right now, because we have no idea what that's going to bring. People got rich off of our backs. I don't understand how people can just hold their head up high and say, yeah, I did that. That's ridiculous. That's why we're in this mess. It's sickening. And what I could do about that is hold my head up high and make sure that the taxpayers are taken care of, to make sure that it's fair for all of us, to make sure that someone's not walking away with 6 figures. I think it was over $150,000 for some of these lawyers got. That's ridiculous. What? We're Scranton. We're not no New York, Manhattan area. That's ridiculous. 150-some thousand. That's sickening. And people should really start thinking about getting some pitchforks and torches and going to these. Like, I just don't understand it. Thanks.
Thank you. Mark, the question goes to you. What steps will you take to hold the lawyers who negotiated the sales agreement for the sewer on behalf of the city accountable?
All right, first of all, I was never in favor of the sewer authority deal, period. I mean, we're selling every asset we have. That's probably the last biggest one. I know what it's used for, but we haven't got anything out of it. With regards to the easements and the mysterious confidential deadline, there was no plan for that. That was never discussed. It was never at the table, and there's no plan B for it. So what I would recommend immediately is someone within the city, whether it's the solicitor, to pose an injunction to freeze the monies right now, and bring everybody back to the table and figure this out. Because the taxpayers lose. This was an asset, and we're going to lose $17 million because of that.
Yeah, but when you're in debt, you sell off your assets to...
Andy, I'm sorry, that's
Sorry, ma'am.
Mark's time.
No, we need to bring everybody back to the table and straighten this out.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, Mark.
Jessica, the question goes to you. What steps will you take to hold the lawyers who negotiated the sales agreement on behalf of the city accountable?
Sure. I'd like to start off by saying I think it's really unfortunate and frustrating for people of Scranton to be in this situation. We were already very upset with the sewer authority sale several years ago, but now to still have this lingering over our heads, this is not the way that city government should be done. And this is part of the problem that we need to correct overall in the city. It's just part of a larger issue at hand. And I think that the current administration and council are trying to work towards a solution to ensure that we don't lose out on that money. I think we have at least $12 million in escrow, and that is a huge amount for our city, especially when we want to get out of Act 47, and we want to remain in a financially stable place, and that money should be going towards things in the city, not to continue to pay towards American Water or the Sewer Authority sale. So I think that we need to hold more people accountable. We need to make sure that the right people are in place when we come onto council and with the new mayor, so that we don't run into a similar situation ever again. And we need to find out what the deadline is. I'm really hoping that it becomes resolved quickly. A lot of people are in limbo and wondering what's going to happen. But if it doesn't, and if we need to deal with it, I'm prepared to do everything I can to fight for that money for the city.
Okay, thank you. Mark, this next question goes to you first, and it's a piggyback actually on the sewer question, but dealing with a supposed, or what people are calling a rain tax. So a little bit of an intro first and then a question. In Scranton, there is a common piping and water treatment system that handles sewage and stormwater runoff. Because the system must handle both, even though stormwater does not need purification, the cost of the system must be borne by the people of the city of Scranton. So here's the question. Do you favor what has been called a rain tax, and how do you think that this cost should be assessed to city residents? And there's a bunch of different things that people have talked about, calculating square footage of property, et cetera. So really it's about the rain tax is what I'm asking you to give your opinion on.
Here's another example of how poorly the sewer deal was done. This was never addressed in the sale of the sewer deal, and it should have been. So once again, we are piggybacking on how what a ridiculous sale that was and how it was handled. So we're burdened with the runoff or the rain, whatever you want to call it. And it's not fair, first of all. There was money on the table with the sewer authority sale. There's still money out there. We've received nothing yet in terms of service or anything like that. And this, again, was not addressed initially that should have been. Is it fair to put all that on the city of Scranton? No. So I know there's a couple ideas, a couple theories that maybe we should do it regionally. I know that this was done in Luzerne County, and it didn't pan out the way they thought it would initially. So I'm not in favor of the tax itself. I'm not in favor of the word tax. I think we have to go back to the table. We have to go back and see, first of all, what I read today, there's also an issue at East Mountain that they want reimbursement for some work done that was supposed to come out of the proceeds of the sewer authority deal. So it's a mess. I think, like I said earlier, we have to get everybody accountable, get everybody to sit down at a table, get an injunction, freeze all this, and work all this out. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Jessica, the same question goes to you. Give me your opinion on the rain tax.
Sure. So when it comes to stormwater management, I think there's a lot of education and misinformation out there, and I think it's very complicated issue that's difficult for the public and our officials to understand. There really is a lot to it. It is a federal mandate, so it's something that we need to figure out how to pay for one way or another. It is happening, and I think we just keep putting it off as a city, but we do need a way to deal with the stormwater management, and I would like to figure out the best way to do that so that we're not making Scranton more unaffordable for its citizens. I would like to have a public forum on it so that we can talk more about what it entails and figure out the best way to deal with it. I do know that a fee is less costly as opposed to a tax. I don't think there was any proposal for a tax. I think it was just for a fee, which could be added on to something else, but paying a monthly fee as opposed to a tax. And that would also be able to apply to tax-exempt properties, which I think is a positive to there being a fee. But once again, we would need to see the results of another study. I know we had the Arcata study, but there's, I think, still more information that we need in order to determine what a fair fee would be for people.
Okay, thank you. Andy, the same question goes to you. Your opinion on a supposed rain tax?
It's absolutely ridiculous. A fee, a tax, whatever you want to call it. These guys don't want to say the word tax. If no one on this stage wants to say we're not going to increase a fee or a tax, I'm sorry, voters, write them off because they're going to raise your bills. They're going to raise your bills. I just don't understand it. People are moving out of our town, our city, because the bills are just adding up. And they're going to the wishing well. They're going to the taxpayer once again. Going to the taxpayer. There's not going to be too many taxpayers left. How about our senior citizens? You guys think about that? People that can't even pay their taxes. And now you want to tax the rain? Guys, just remember about this. Our founding fathers went to war with the British government because of a tax on tea. Now they want to tax our rain. That's all I got to say. Thanks.
Okay. The next question, Jessica, will go to you first.
Okay.
And this one pertains to the ballot question that will be on the November ballot for Scranton voters pertaining to the mercantile tax. So Scranton voters will vote yes or no on a ballot question pertaining to changing from a business mercantile tax on gross receipts to a tax that businesses would pay on their total Scranton payroll. And this question pertains specifically to the Scranton School District, but will have impact as well on the city of Scranton. So what is your position on this change in taxing structure for businesses in the city of Scranton?
Well, I think the city of Scranton as a whole is in need of tax reform. I don't think what we're doing is working for most people. When I go around canvassing and door knocking, the number one thing that residents bring up are taxes. So I think this does play a part into it. I think there are some advantages for the city to being able to switch over to the payroll tax. I think once again, it's another confusing issue that that is tough to understand, but it is supposed to be a net neutral result where we don't, lose money, but we don't make money on it either. It's just a different way of the tax coming to us, but it's something that we have as an opportunity of coming out of Act 47 that other cities have done. I'd like to maybe research to see how it's worked for them and if they had any negative results from it. But as of now, I'm leaning towards that being a positive for the city. I do understand why there's some reasons the school board had voted against it. If that could impact the schools a little differently than the city.
Okay, thank you. Andy, the question goes to you. What is your position on this change in taxing structure for businesses?
I believe that that's one of the reasons why businesses don't want to come to Scranton. Businesses don't want to come here to pay mercantile tax. I mean, my family had a business here for a long time. My great-grandfather, he was an immigrant, and came in through the port of Boston. I'm not a Boston fan, though. Came in and he started his family legacy of funeral directors. I'm the 4th generation, 9th funeral director in our family that bears the last name. And if you can see what's going on now, he probably would have moved a long time ago. But I'm for a different kind of tax than the mercantile tax.
Okay. Mark, the question goes to you. What is your position on this change in taxing structure for businesses?
Okay, so we didn't vote on this at the school board level.
No, they did not.
We did
You're
not.
right.
But here's how I look at it. So the Pennsylvania Department of Education recommended us as the board to put it on a referendum to vote. Okay, so we're following that initiative. We've had some discussion with legislators that have come and presented some information to us. We've had some information come from the city. And the big push from the city is because it has to be done before exiting Act 47, and it can only be changed once. So my position on it is, and like what Jessica said, it is net neutral. It equalizes overall. I've talked to a lot of people about this. I'm knocking on doors and talking to people that are business owners, and I do believe that it is fair for everybody. It does equalize it out because it's not being paid on gross sales anymore. It's being paid as a payroll tax. But I'm glad that you're having the forum next week to explain this better to the voters, because the voters are going to hear the word tax and they're going to hear payroll tax. And some are going to be confused and think that they're being taxed with regards to their paycheck or whatever. I mean, I can't get in the heads of everybody. So thank you for presenting this forum to better explain it. And then the public will actually have the opportunity to vote on it, and they will actually decide. Thank you.
Thank you. So just a reminder that the League of Women Voters in Scranton tomorrow will host a forum at Scranton High School, 6 p.m. on Monday evening, this coming Monday, October 21st. And it will be a panel discussion on this particular ballot question. So we have a lot of questions, and we have 4 different panelists that will participate. So we hope that you can join us and learn more about it. I know I still have questions on it as well. Okay, I want to move on now. Andy, you get this question first. This one pertains to City Hall. Estimates for the renovation of the Scranton City Hall building, constructed in 1888, are in the range of $10.7 million. Should the city undertake these renovations or make a serious effort to sell it and have government move elsewhere?
To undertake the renovation, was that a pun towards me? No,
I'm sorry?
I'm joking. I'm joking because I'm an undertaker.
I'm a little slow on the uptake.
Got it. No, $10.7 million. I believe I said this in the last debate. Anyone that has taken on a construction project of any size, whether it's remodeling your deck or remodeling your home, business, whatever, you know it takes more time and it costs more money, especially with the building from the 1800s. They were built to last back then, unlike now. The problem is getting the right material that's going to last another 100 and some years, or 200 years. And I suggested this last time. We start from the top, let's fix the roof, let's fix the windows, button it up, and let's move from there. This whole project, I don't know, $10.7 million, that seems like a lot. Seems like a lot, and we don't have it. We don't have it right now. I don't know, maybe we can get some of our state legislators some of our federal representatives, maybe they can step in. I don't know, but that's what we all need to do. Whoever gets on, if it's me and Mark, if it's me and Jess, Mark, it doesn't matter. We should all be willing to work together as a team. And that's another thing that I can bring to the table. I'm proven to be a team person. I love teamwork. And it's about working together as a team. And when $10.7 million on the table, we're all going to have to come up with really, really creative ways to save. As I said, got to start from the bottom, work our way down. Small bites. You don't need a steak in one bite. You can chop it up. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mark, the question to you. Should the city undertake these renovations or make a serious effort to sell it and have government move elsewhere?
Okay, so first of all, I'm not in favor of selling City Hall. So with that said, it's probably our last asset. I know I'm referring back to the sewer authority. We sold every asset. And I know, there was some print in the paper, well, if we sell City Hall, we can move to a building down the street that's $5 million. Well, who owns the building? Who's going to benefit from that? That raises an eyebrow. But it's an historical building. I don't think we exhausted every resource available to try to fund this. Or there's other cities do it. They have grassroots efforts. They find grants. We need to do better at getting money, asking for money, either through grants or get good grant writers. But at this point right now, I do not want to sell City Hall. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Jessica, the question to you.
Sure, thank you. One of the many reasons I fell in love with Scranton is because of our history here and the old architecture. We own, my wife and I, we own a Victorian home that was built in 1900. That was a really big draw for us to buying a home here. And I feel like it would be hypocritical of us to try to get people to come in and buy our older buildings and renovate them without us doing the same to our city hall. I think it's an important building that we need to salvage. We don't need another vacant building in Scranton. I drive around way too often and just see so many places that have had nothing in it for so long. I don't even know who would want to purchase City Hall and put in the money into it if we don't want to do that. I think there's a lot involved with moving and buying a new building that isn't included in maybe the price. There's a lot of time that would go into that, and then purchasing additional furniture or whatever needs the staff would have to make that fit. So it's not just comparing that to the purchase price of a new building. And the $10.7 million was based on one estimate. We could get other estimates, and if that was an idea to sell it, then that would be the process that I would go through to get other estimates. But I really think there should just be a plan on how we're going to renovate City Hall, what priorities we're going to take, and then what other things we're going to do to maintain the state of City Hall once we put in the money for renovations.
Okay, thank you. Mark, this next question goes to you first, and I want to talk about blight. So news accounts of certain property owners point to their unwillingness or inability to maintain their properties. And additionally, recently there's been some talk about weakening quality of life ordinances originally meant to combat neighborhood blight. What steps would you take as a council member to make sure that blight does not decimate our neighborhoods?
All right, well, first of all, I'm very happy with the situation with the LIPS department. So there's going to be major changes there, because that was part of the problem. That was a big part of the problem. And that goes back to, I know the buzzword is corruption. The other night that was brought up all night. But I talked about that early in the primary. That was part of my platform. But, and part of the problem was the LIPS department. So there's been major changes there. So I have faith that we'll get someone with the skill set eventually to run that. With regards to blight, it's horrible. So I don't know if I agree. I'm not there yet, but I don't know if I agree with reducing the penalties. I don't know what message that sends. I don't know if it's the best idea. I think we need to enforce. We still need to enforce. We need a department that stays on top of it. We need to find ways to legally fight and challenge these out-of-town landlords and owners and landlords and hold them accountable. So, I mean, blight's horrible. I see it everywhere, and I'm not happy about it, but I think, you know, with the change in the department, Lip's department, I feel with a change in a new mayor, that this will get accomplished. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Jessica, that question goes to you.
Sure. I think blight is a very serious issue for our city. That's probably the second thing that I hear from voters when I'm speaking to them, the first being taxes and the second being blight in their neighborhoods. And some neighborhoods are affected more than others, but there's too many times that I've heard, well, that house has looked like that for several years and it was supposed to be torn down how long ago? So I don't think we're prioritizing what needs to be done with these properties, if it's a tear down, or if we need to try to get someone to buy and purchase an empty lot. You know, some people can invest and renovate these properties while others need to be torn down. But I would like to see maybe a separate commission or committee set up in order to address the issues with blight in the city, because I don't see it happening quick enough, and yeah, I think it's having an impact on our neighborhoods and how we feel about the city when you know that the house across the street has broken windows and is falling apart. I know I used to live on one of those streets in North Scranton. We've lived in a few different neighborhoods in Scranton, and whenever I go by, that same house is there, and I wonder why isn't it gone yet? So yeah, we definitely can do more, and I would take it very seriously.
Okay, thank you. Andy, the question to you, what steps would you take as a council person to make sure that blight does not decimate our neighborhoods?
Well, I spoke about this at the last debate, Andrea, and I noticed a couple weeks after on one of the news channels that another town actually, they must have been listening, because the Pennsylvania National Guard actually has a program to fight blight. They will actually bring in their Army Corps of Engineers, and as long as the house is marked and they see it as such, I believe that they have to work closely with the police department. I'm still trying to figure that part out, but I have been in contact with a few military people in the Pennsylvania National Guard, and it's a real possibility to where it could be little to no cost for the city of Scranton. These guys are going to come in. They can come in as long as we play by their rules, and all we got to do, I believe, is provide someone to drive a truck to the dump and pay for the dump of the waste of the home. But that might take a year or so, maybe 2 years. But if I can get that done in a year or two, I'll count that as a victory. So that's what I plan to do about that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Jessica, this next question will go to you first. And I'll tell you up front that I asked this question in the spring, but we feel that it's important enough to ask it again. And this one pertains to reassessment. Although this is not a city responsibility, the implications for the city are huge. Do you support or oppose a Lackawanna County property reassessment? Please explain your opinion and what steps you will take to make sure that the county commissioners understand your position.
Thank you. So, related to countywide reassessment, I think it has to be done. It's been way too long. The last time it was reassessed was in the 70s. There are a lot of properties that are being overtaxed as a result, and I think it would really even the playing field and help out our county to have that reassessment. There are a lot of benefits, but I also think there has been a lot of fear-mongering around reassessment, and it's another issue that people don't quite fully have the understanding of and the impact that it can have, which I think would be a positive for our area. So I am in support of it.
Excuse me.
And I'm sorry, can I just add to?
Sure.
I do get that taxes are affecting our elderly population, people who may not have like the steady income to pay. So I think that we still do need programs to offer to those individuals to take the burden off of them, in addition to the reassessment.
Okay. I apologize for my coughing fit. Andy, the question now goes to you. What is your opinion on the Lackawanna County property reassessment, and what steps will you take to make sure that the county commissioners understand your position?
Well, it needs to be done, and the steps I'm going to take start right now. If they're not for it for the city of Scranton, do not vote for them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mark, the question goes to you. What's your position, and what steps will you take to make sure the county commissioners understand your position?
Well, my position, I'm definitely in favor of it. We talk about how are we going to turn this city around, one of the first things we need is economic development. So if I own a company outside of town and a reassessment hasn't been done in decades, I think twice about coming here, because my understanding is it's going to be forced upon us anyways, very shortly. So whenever something is forced upon you, it's never done correctly. It's last minute. I believe that we have to do it. We have to do it now. So we were in control of it. We have to do it cheaply. I also agree that, but it's supposed to equalize. So my understanding is some might pay a little more, some might pay a little less, some might pay the same. But, the elderly, if they are affected, we need to provide maybe some type of voucher. We need to look at this and take the time to do it right before we're forced to do it. With regards to letting our commissioners know, I already have, and I'll continue to do so. I know no one wants to talk about it during an election, especially a commissioner's election. Every time there is one, nobody wants to talk about it. But I will continue to reach out to them and voice my concerns. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Andy, this next question will go to you first, and it's another age-old problem. This one is parking. The privatization of parking revenue has recently led to increases in the downtown rates for parking, and we understand that more raises will be forthcoming. Do you believe that these increased parking rates constitute a burden on employees and customers of downtown businesses that will hurt their profitability and eventually their survival? And what can City Council do about that?
It absolutely is going to affect downtown businesses, because then they're either going to have to build parking garages, which is going to affect their rainwater tax, and then it's just more fees and more fees on top of fees. There should be some sort of program to where, okay, if you want to go down to the city and buy a monthly parking pass, offer some incentives. I get that, maybe a sticker on your vehicle. Besides downtown, just parking at a meter and whatnot, look around some of these neighborhoods. People that are parking on the street on the 300 block of Railroad Avenue, right on Luzerne Street and Railroad. There's been a car sitting there since before the winter. I called the LIPS department several times on it, sent them pictures on it several times on it. It's just sitting there. So when it comes to parking, I think we got bigger fish to fry than worrying about how much we're going to charge. We actually need to clean up our streets, and I would love to be a part of the team and work together to help that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mark, the same question goes to you about parking, especially in the downtown.
All right, so your question is about the increase. First of all, it's another asset we sold. We sold the parking authority for $1, all right? So, and there wasn't, great discussion during that sale, just like the sewer authority. So I know, we're going to have kiosks, we're going to have this, we're going to have, and, we won't raise the rates, but all of a sudden the rates are being raised. So once again, we got to get everybody back to the table. All this happened under almost one administration or one certain mayor under 2 administrations. All these assets are gone. Now all the problems are arising. Increase in parking. Do we know why? No. Was there supposed to be an increase? Yeah, but I don't think it was supposed to be this soon. So that, like the sewer authority and the easements, unfortunately, we got to get everybody back to the table. We got to hash this out. I'm sure it's going to cost us some money, but we got to get credible lawyers in there that are going to fight for us and fight for the citizens. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Jessica, the same question goes to you about the parking, especially in downtown.
Well, I think, as Mark pointed out, this is the result of what happens when we sell our assets. We're not in control of the prices. I do think that it places an unfair burden on people in the city, especially those downtown businesses and their employees, because they're the ones who are parking down there for 8 or more hours a day. And so to pay more on the meters could really hurt them. It might not be as worth it for however much they're making an hour at a business. And so I feel for those people, and I would like to do more. I'd like to work with the garages on figuring out if there's a possible discount or fee that we can get for city employers and their employees downtown, and then that would open up spaces. The more that we utilize the garages, they're not being used at this point, so the more that we utilize them, then that's going to open up spaces on the streets for people to come downtown and for customers of businesses. So that's something that I would take into consideration and look into on city council in order to lessen that burden.
Okay, thank you. Mark, this next question goes to you first. Let's talk about municipal pensions, okay? City pensions for its employees are constantly underfunded and in danger of failing. Is it now time to change the pension model from a defined benefit pension plan that must be continuously funded by the city and instead move to a defined contribution plan where the city would make contributions to the employees for their specific pension plans? The employees then have the freedom to allocate investments as they choose, and the value that's available at retirement would rise or fall based on the investments held by the plan. So the question is, should we consider changing from a defined benefit pension plan for municipal employees to a defined contribution plan for municipal employees?
Okay, so first of all, one of the reasons for the sewer authority sale was to shore up the pensions and to get us out of Act 47. And I know, like the district's budget, the city budget is the same, that, roughly 80% is total compensation to employees. And that includes salaries, benefits, and pension. So when you're asking me, the pension is a defined benefit at this time. What you're asking, I think your question is, do we change it the way it's funded? Or like a combination of funding with some type of reform? I'm okay with that because I believe that's coming everywhere as long as there's great discussion about it and the way it's funded and the choices available to the employees. Who's gonna manage it? Who's gonna organize it? Because you've got to make sure it's the right people doing that. But I'd be interested in sitting down and discussing this. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Jessica, the question goes to you. Should the city consider moving from a defined contribution plan, or I'm sorry, from a defined benefit plan to a defined contribution plan?
Yeah. This is a difficult subject because I think people want to make sure that they're secure in their retirement and that they don't have to worry about paying their bills or their taxes after they retire and they're no longer working. And I do think pensions are helpful for many people in allowing them to do those things. But I also don't think that it's been working for the city, and so I would be interested in looking at pension reform. As Mark mentioned, it is a very large percentage of our budget, and as we're coming out of Act 47, I think we need to continue to be on the cautious side when it comes to the financial stability of the city.
Okay, thank you. And Andy, then the question goes to you. Should we consider moving from a defined benefit to a defined contribution plan for municipal employees?
I do believe that we should move from the defined benefit to defined contribution. I believe that the city should match maybe a percentage of it and then maybe offer the employees packages, maybe like ABC. You choose whatever package, and every 5 years you can move that package to, maybe a little bit more risky investments as compared to more moderate investments. I know that a lot of companies do that. I know the federal government does that. And I think that the city should be able to match whatever the employee wants to put in, up to, 3, 4, 5%, whatever number works with whatever numbers are available and whatever makes sense to everyone. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Jessica, this next question goes to you first, and you've mentioned Act 47, so let's talk about that. Are you confident that the city can implement its plan to exit Act 47's financially distressed status despite ongoing financial problems? Explain your opinion, please.
Well, the city's been in distress status for almost as long as I've been alive, and certainly longer than I've been here, but I think a lot of people still feel like we are distressed in many ways. As you mentioned, the city still is going through some hard times, and I think that we do still need to do everything we can to make sure we exit from Act 47, and as I alluded to earlier, also ensuring the financial stability for the city and making smart decisions, not taking our foot off the pedal just because we have this label taken off of us. But I do think it will be helpful for us, for our city to shed that label, and I think it's something we need to do while still maintaining a good budget and being cautious when it comes to our finances.
Okay, thank you. Andy, the question goes to you. Are you confident that the city can implement its plan to exit Act 47's financially distressed status?
Actually, I want to say I'm not confident, but in the past few months, and with the new mayor and with what seems to be people wanting to work together as a team for the common goal of all of us, for all the taxpayers, for everyone, it is possible. Act 47, Jess is right. It's been here for a long, long time. And it's almost laughable because every single debate, if you go back and watch the debates, it's always a question. Oh, we're going to come out. Oh, we're going to come out next summer. Oh, we're going to come out this summer. Oh, we're going to come out next summer. Oh, no, it's this summer. What? It's either we're doing it or we're not doing it. Now, let's get our act together. Let's work as a team, a cohesive team to help everyone, to help the citizens, the taxpayers, and the property owners of Scranton. And if we can't do that, and if the people cannot elect one of us, or all three of us can't choose us to work as a team, this is what it's about. It's about working as a team for the common goal of all of us. That's the only way we're going to get out of Act 47, to do it as a team. Thank you.
Mark, the question goes to you. Are you confident that the city can implement its plan to exit Act 47's financially distressed status?
Well, first of all, the plan has been implemented, and we are exiting Act 47. And the reason why,
They've said it time and time again, Mark.
Andy, I'm sorry, this is Mark's time.
we are exiting Act 47. The sewer sale helped solidify that deal. And that's coming shortly. And that's why the big push for the change from mercantile to payroll tax before we exit, because we are exiting. To remain, out of that, to remain out of Act 47 or no longer go back to a distressed city, we have to start identifying areas where we need to shore up and fix things that haven't been working for us. We need to establish best practices that we didn't have in place. We need to put, like I said earlier, people with the best skill set in the positions of key positions instead of putting people in the positions through patronage. So I firmly believe we're exiting, and let's just hope we stay out of there. And the way to stay out of there is to change the way we're doing things, because that's how we got there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I'll remind the candidates that you do have up to 3 one-minute rebuttals if you wanted to add something to a response that you've already given. The next question, Andy, goes to you first. So we've talked a lot about corruption, and the question here is, do you support the permanent existence and staffing of an ethics board to oversee the conduct of city contracts, employee behavior, and the use of city property such as vehicles?
Absolutely. Absolutely, I support that. When it comes to corruption, I think it's disgusting. More than half the city voted for a man who hoodwinked all of us, and that's just ridiculous. So there's that. But when it comes to the use of city vehicles and employment, I think that employees that are being paid by the taxpayer, they need to have some sort of sense of pride that this is our city. And they're working for us, they're working for all of us, and have pride in it. And when it comes to the vehicles, I'll give everyone a free one. Everyone wants to implement this, whoever's watching. If you get into a vehicle, you do a preventative maintenance check on it. You go around the entire vehicle, you check it to make sure that nothing's broken, everything's working. If something's broken, you document it. And when you enter that vehicle, you print your name on a piece of paper, you sign it, starting time, starting date, ending mileage, ending time. I don't know why this hasn't happened. I don't know why no one thought about it. All it is a couple clipboards and some pieces of paper, and then that gets turned into maybe, say, a fleet manager. That I believe that position was removed years ago. Or maybe it should have went to the city controller. Clipboards and pieces of paper, give it to someone that their job is to check to make sure everything makes sense with numbers. That's how you do it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark, the question to you. Do you support the permanent existence and staffing of an ethics board to oversee the conduct of city contracts, employee behavior, and the use of city property such as vehicles?
Of course I support it. And the problem is, I'm sorry, God bless you. Of course I support it. And the problem is there was one. There was an ethics code. There was an ethics board. But the past administration didn't enforce anything or even acknowledge it existed. It's unfortunate that some unethical people made us have to bring it forth again because of corruption. So of course I support it. And I hope that every employee in the district supports it and signs the new form that they need to form, or needs to sign. Thank you.
And Jessica, the question goes to you now. Do you support the permanent existence and staffing of an ethics board?
Yes, I support the permanent existence of the ethics board. I've a hard time figuring out who would say no to that question, because that's what we need here. We need to fight corruption. We need to hold people accountable. We need honesty. And I think the ethics board, they're just the right people who can do that. So I'm glad to see that it's been revived and has new members. And I look forward to the work that they're doing.
Okay, thank you. So Mark, this next question goes to you first, and we'll turn back to the local, well, not local, statewide news. And let's talk about something that might impact Scranton eventually, and that's marijuana. If marijuana should become legal in Pennsylvania, what do you see as the issues that might affect Scranton, and what solutions should City Council be responsible for developing?
When you talk about the legalization of marijuana, you're talking about the use, not medical, right? Because I don't know where I'm at with that. I'm a teacher. I'm surrounded by kids every day. So do I believe that we should, for medical purposes, absolutely. I see its value, I hear it, I look at the research, but I'm not in support of legalizing marijuana in Pennsylvania right now.
Okay, thank you. And Jessica, the question is, if it becomes legal in Pennsylvania, what are the issues that might affect Scranton, and what solutions should City Council be responsible for developing?
Sure. Well, there are many states around us that have legalized the use of recreational marijuana statewide, and I don't really think they've seen any negative effects of having done that. This is something that the governor has addressed. The lieutenant governor went on a tour around the whole state and every county to discuss this issue, to determine if it was something that they would support, and I am supportive of it. I think it's going to help Pennsylvania and Scranton, of course, as well, to bring in money into our economy that we would have never had before. I think it's just going to strengthen the Pennsylvania economy. I think I look at it as more of a business move, but I haven't seen any negative effects of that being enforced.
Okay, thank you. And Andy, the question goes to you. If marijuana should become legal in Pennsylvania, what might the issues be affecting Scranton, and what solutions should City Council be responsible for developing, if any?
Some of the solutions that we should be responsible for on City Council is I don't think you should be walking around town smoking a joint. I think if you want to do it in your basement, if you want to do it in your backyard, if you want to do it wherever else, yeah, cool, great, awesome. I think we should treat it as similar to alcohol. You got to be in an establishment. I don't think that marijuana and alcohol should mix in certain environments. It shouldn't be a marijuana machine in a bar. If you're just serving alcohol, cool, that's over here. If you want to be an establishment that is going to serve marijuana, you're on that side. And there should be a rule to where you can't be within, I don't know, a mile, 2 miles within each other. I am in support of it. Look at what's going on out in Colorado. It practically saved the state. And as a funeral director, and my family being in the business for a long, long time, I've yet to see a death certificate with overdose because of marijuana. I've seen death certificates that have the cause of death related to alcohol. I haven't yet to see it related to marijuana. So I hope that answers the question.
Okay, thank you. Jessica, the next question goes to you first. So although the decision on whether to grant its application for expansion lies with DEP and with our neighbors in Dunmore, do you advocate that Scranton City Council should take official action to pass a resolution to oppose the expansion of the Keystone Sanitary Landfill?
Yes, I would like to see that resolution passed. I am against the expansion of the landfill. I think that has a great effect on our environment in Lackawanna County, and we should be supportive of our neighbors and the health of our citizens.
Okay, thank you. Andy, the same question goes to you.
I don't think, we live between two landfills in over coal mines. No, send Jersey's garbage somewhere else. Send New York's garbage somewhere else. Yeah, I would not be. I would love to be part of a resolution to help stop it.
Okay, thank you. And Mark, the question goes to you as well.
I'm going to mirror what the two members to the right and left of me said. I'm definitely not in favor of this. Enough is enough. They've had enough garbage. It's, you know, and you talk about the rainwater runoff. That rainwater that we're going to have to deal with is coming from up there. Some of it is getting into the soil, getting into the ground, and it's coming towards us. So, of course, I'm not in favor of the expansion. Thank you.
All right. Andy, this next question goes to you first. So Scranton is a home rule charter city. And several years ago, we did seat a home rule charter study commission to review the structure. Our current home rule charter has been in place since the 1960s. Is it time for a home rule charter study commission to again review the structure and procedures in Scranton's home rule charter? Why or why not?
Absolutely. We need to update it. Absolutely. In the 1960s, think about this. In the 1960s, we put a man on the moon, right? It took a whole room full of people to do that. Right now, our cell phones that we have can do everything that all those people did. That was in the 1960s. It's definitely, we're way overdue. Technology and the ability to find information quickly and effectively, it's here. We're in the age of information. We shouldn't be, it needs to change. Thanks.
Mark, is it time for to consider seating a new home rule charter study commission to review the city's charter?
Yeah, absolutely. We've had a lot of problems with the city. I mean, there's a reason why we had the home rule charter. So I believe that, you know, it's time to look at everything again with regards to everything we talked about tonight. Look at everything. And whether that's a vehicle we use to do so, I'm okay with. Thank you.
Okay, and Jessica, the question goes to you.
Yes, of course, I would like for us to take a look again at the home rule charter. I think it's something that needs to be done regularly, whether it's every 2 or 3 years. We need a policy in place to consistently take a look at that because there are always things that you're going to miss that you'd like to have in. I mean, look what happened when our mayor resigned. We didn't know what to do about it. If that was specified in the home rule charter, then that would have been a much more simple process for us than it's become. So I think there are a lot of things missing that need to be re-examined. I'm very supportive of looking at that, like I said, on a regular basis, having a commission to study the home rule charter and make whatever adjustments we need to.
Okay, thank you. Mark, this next question goes to you first, and it's one that I ask frequently in debates. Scranton has 5 college campuses located either totally or partially within our borders, and 3 more located in the county. What can Scranton do to sell the city to students and their families for both the short-term and post-graduation?
So could you please read that again?
So we have a lot of people coming into the city.
Sure.
How do we keep them here? What do we do to sell people on the city of Scranton so that they're willing to stay?
Well, one of them is sitting right next to me, so here's an example. This is a prime example. But, well, we need to get back to the basics. We used to be a vibrant city. So as much as we take shots at the nonprofit universities, they're almost going to meet each other someday. I mean, I live here long enough to remember where the three hospitals were, that much apart. Now they're coming together. And it's unfortunate that they're almost together and they don't pay, taxes like, I think 30% of the properties in Scranton are nonprofit. But what I think, what we need to sell to these people that are coming to college here, that this is a great town. It's a proud town, but we also in turn need economic growth to provide opportunities for these students to stay here and have the buy-ins from their family. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Jessica, the question, what can we do to get more people to stay in the city?
Well, I'm very glad you asked. This has been a really important piece of my platform and why I wanted to run. When I was here at the University of Scranton, I was here for 7 years for my 2 degrees. And I know that when I was graduating, there were so little people who were actually staying in the city. I am from New Jersey, and many of the students that at least go to school here are from New York, New Jersey, and neighboring states. And many of them have just left. They haven't even given it a second thought to stay in Scranton. And we need young people to stay here to thrive. We are not taking advantage of having all the colleges and universities, the 5 of them that you had mentioned in our city. And it's really a shame, because I think that's what's going to help our economic growth. We're gonna if we have more students choosing to stay here, we'll have more investment in the city. Whenever I see a student, I've started asking them, do you picture yourself staying here after graduation? And they all say no. And I ask them why that is. And I'll get some varying responses, but I think part of it is they don't feel like the community, they have their community here or at their college, and they stick to it, and they're not as much out in the community. And even when I encountered a student at a university event last week, he chose to take a job in New York City as a realtor. And I said, well, that's something that you could have done in Scranton. He's like, yeah, but I had an internship with a job in the city, and they had offered me a job afterwards. So I think we need to increase the availability of internships to draw students in, to keep them here, show them what types of job opportunities we have here in Northeast Pennsylvania.
Okay, thank you. And Andy, the question goes to you. What can we do to sell the city to students and their families to get more people to stay here?
Well, we got to look at what we have here. You have government employment, local government employment. You have hospitals and education. There are some, I believe there's a big-time tech company in Southside that maybe a lot of people might not know of, but so we need doctors, we need teachers, we need nurses. Why would they come here, though? 3.4% wage tax. It is affordable, I will say that. Maybe for someone that actually has a decent paying job, it's pretty affordable when you compare to Philadelphia, New York, some of the big time cities that if everyone has traveled to. Out there things are a lot more expensive than here. So it is affordable, but someone wants to buy a house, their taxes are going to go through the roof because the majority of it's going to the school district. Our actual city taxes aren't that bad. 3.4% of a wage tax, although I believe 1% goes to the school district. So 2.7%, that's on par. People leave the city to go gain a percent, go to the next town over to gain a percent. So yeah, I could say it's affordable, but that's about it. And I would love to work towards eliminating a mercantile tax to bring more business into the area. That might spur some people to come here and want to stay here. So, thanks.
Jessica, this question goes to you next, and actually follows along with what Andy was just talking about with taxes. So Scranton taxpayers, as we know, are taxed by the city, by the school district, by the county, by the state. So what can we do as far as consolidation of services go? How can the city coordinate with these other governing bodies to streamline or realize cost savings in the delivery of various services that impact the residents of Scranton?
Yeah, that's an important question, and I definitely believe we need more collaboration with those other entities, as you mentioned, to look for cost-saving solutions because of how many taxes people of Scranton have. And I know that there is the Shared Services Committee that has members of City Council and School Board. I would be very interested in serving on that committee and doing whatever I could to keep the lines of communication open between council and school board and our state legislatives. I'm friendly with many of them. I've had the opportunity to meet all of our state reps and senators who represent Scranton, and I feel like I would have a good relationship with them to openly discuss what changes we could make on the statewide level, and the county level, and the city in order to save on costs in Scranton.
Okay, thank you. Andy, the question goes to you. Consolidation of services. What steps can the city take to coordinate services from different governing bodies to streamline or realize cost savings?
I believe we can consolidate services to help save, but I also believe that that's a contract union issue. When it comes to maintenance of buildings, we could save there. When it comes to buying maintenance equipment and maintenance products, I believe we can save there. Consolidation of services is tough when you're married to the school district. The city is married to the school district, but we can't do certain things, but yet we could do certain things. Like, it's either let's all be totally separate or let's be totally together. But yeah, those are some things that we could do to consolidate services, whether it be DPW, garbage, plowing, icing, putting de-icer down. There's a lot of ways we can save. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. And Mark, the question goes to you. How can all of these governing bodies that tax the residents of the city of Scranton work better together to save money?
Okay, well, so first of all, that's in process. I'm happy to report. So one of our subcommittees on the school board is intergovernmental, and it was added last year. So that committee was designed to meet and form another committee with the city called a Shared Services Committee. So they have been meeting, they have been collaborating, and it's a process that's going to take some time. There are some, there will be maybe an issue or two with CBAs or contracts, but primarily the goal is more buying power. So, you know, the way we buy chemicals to clean our buildings. I mean, it'd be a great idea. I worked in industry, a large corporation where, you know, we were a $15 billion company, so we bought the chemicals from one company. And we had a bid on it. But I believe, you know, in the school district, it's a problem. We're leaning towards that because we have 5 vendors. You know, we have 5 vendors for a reason. We shouldn't have 5 vendors. So we're trying to clean that up. So these meetings are happening. These meetings are going to continue where the dialogue has taken place or is taking place where we can share some of purchasing, which would be the most effective because, you know, the better buying power you have, the more you're going to save money. And then some of them other services, it's going to take time. So my understanding was with the inception of this Shared Services Committee, you know, combining the city and the school district, that once that gets going, then they're going to incorporate that or reach out to the county and bring them in. Once we establish so we can do some, we can make some movement on this or move ahead on this. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I think we have time for one last question before we move on into closing statements. And Andy, this question will go to you first. Realistically, what is the top accomplishment that you want to see achieved if you're elected? How would a voter be able to measure your success? And I'll tell you the same thing that I told the mayoral candidates the other night. Remember that this will be on YouTube forever.
Well, I can tell you one thing, I'm never going to be in favor of any increase in a fee, in a tax whatsoever until the school property taxes are eliminated for the property owner. One thing, if I could accomplish, would be blight. As I spoke about earlier, there's a program within the National Guard to makes it a real possibility to where if there's an abandoned home and it's not on the tax rolls, we can get it knocked down. I can bring that to the table, and if I can do that in my time, I would consider that a win.
Okay, thank you. Mark, the question to you. Realistically, what's the top accomplishment you want to see achieved if elected, and how would a voter be able to measure your success?
All right, well, the first thing I want to straighten, I mean, there's many things that need to be taken care of. We all realize that. One of the ones that has been driving me crazy for, I don't know, I think it's 12 years, is the garbage fee. Is it a fee? Why did it go from $177 to $300? No one can explain where that money goes, how it's used, who's getting paid, what that actual money takes care of. How it's being collected is horrendous. The company that still supposedly collect, they're collecting money, nothing else. They're not collecting the fees. And they admitted paying to get this contract, paying our mayor to get this contract, paying the mayor, another mayor down in Luzerne County to get this contract. So if I can accomplish getting them out of here and changing the way we do collect garbage, whether it's a fee because it's very hard to collect, you don't want to call it a tax, but if we can straighten that out, if I can at least do that, I'd feel I've accomplished something. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Jessica, realistically, what is the top accomplishment you want to see achieved if you're elected, and how would a voter be able to measure your success?
Realistically, it's hard to choose one. I'm an overachiever, so there are many priorities that I have for this city. I'm really excited about the future. I feel new vision for our city, where I want to see us in 5 years, 10 years, that I don't feel like we've been looking at so far. But I suppose the number one thing I would say we need to do first is to regain trust of the people of Scranton. We need to increase our transparency, and not tomorrow, not 6 months down the road when people are wondering, well, whatever happened to this issue? Where did that go? Why are you doing something about it now? It needs to happen today. We need to be open with people. We need to let them in on what's going on in city government, and I think there are several ways, measurable ways, that we can do that. It's not just an empty promise to be transparent or to not be corrupt. It is modernizing our communication, using our website for information so that people know where to look for things, using social media and updating it regularly. Oh, well, your garbage is going to be a day late this week because of the holiday, or recycling might not get picked up because we're having this issue. Or the city council meeting has moved tonight. Those are easy things that we could notify people of. And in addition to modernizing our communications, I think we need to host at least quarterly town halls throughout the city, and not just in one place, but going around the different neighborhoods and having those town halls so we have a chance to hear from people and know what's going on, what their issues are, because it's a lot harder to address if we're just guessing at it, and I think it's difficult for people to make every city council meeting. It might conflict with work, or I think it's just tough to only have that as people's outlet.
Okay, thank you. Before we move into closing statements, I'd like to just take a minute to remind everyone about upcoming league events. So on Monday, October 21st at 6 p.m., we'll be at Scranton High School and conducting a forum on the ballot question pertaining to the school district changing from a mercantile tax on businesses to a payroll tax on businesses. On Tuesday next week, October 22nd, we'll be back here in the Moskowitz Theater at the University of Scranton with candidates for Lackawanna County Commissioner. This past Monday, and already being aired on YouTube and on ECTV, we hosted a debate, a forum actually, with the candidates, the 7 candidates for Scranton mayor for the special election. So there's a lot going on right now, and we invite you to connect to the league on our website at lwvlackawanna.org for the schedule of everything. We appreciate all of our candidates who are here this evening. Again, I want to thank the University of Scranton and ECTV. And I want to invite everyone in the audience to consider joining the League of Women Voters. We are a nonprofit membership-based organization open to both women and men. And we invite all of you to join us. And if you appreciate the work that we do, consider making a small contribution on the way out the door. It helps us cover the expenses so that we spend our time doing this instead of fundraising for the things that we need to cover. So we appreciate your support. With that, we'll turn to our candidates once again and ask them for their closing statements. We did draw names, or dots I should say, to see who would give the first closing statement. And Andy Chomko, that honor goes to you. You've got 2 minutes.
Thank you. I was 16 years old when 9/11 happened. I watched planes go in the towers. And I had to do something about it. So I joined the military. I went in the Army. I deployed 4 times. I had the honor to serve with the world's most elite infantry fighting unit, the 1st Ranger Battalion, 75th Ranger Regiment. That's what I did about that. And I came home. I saw veterans in need. So I had to do something about that. So I co-founded a nonprofit that helps local veterans. To this date, we've helped dozens of veterans, in which I believe we probably saved some of their lives in ways that we've helped them. That's what I did for that. When neighbors and friends were calling my cell phone, calling the funeral home, stopping at the funeral home to tell us their issues within the city or within their neighborhood, I needed to do something about it. It's one of the reasons why I'm here tonight. So I started a neighborhood group, neighborhood association, a co-founder of that. I'm about doing something for people and helping people and being of service of them. I have a consistent track record of doing something when things are needed to be done. If the voters of Scranton and everyone here and your friends and families, if you could just please ask them to vote for me, I'd be honored. If the voters of Scranton and taxpayers want someone who's not afraid of political pressure, someone who's willing to work with anyone regardless of their race, creed, color, religion, sexual orientation, or political party, someone who values teamwork and integrity, and someone who wants to do the right damn thing, vote for me. This November, I would be honored to represent the taxpayers of the city of Scranton. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy Chomko. Next, Mark McAndrew, you've got 2 minutes for your closing statement.
Okay, so my desire to serve started at a very young age. My mother was widowed at a young age. She used to take orphans out of local orphanage for holidays, open our house and provide, Christmas presents and stuff like that. So that was my first inspiration to serve. And then I became a teacher, thought I contributed at a higher level, impact lives, and help them become productive citizens. And then thirdly, that's what piqued my interest beyond the school board. I'm there 6 years. My 3 beautiful daughters, Mariah, McKenzie, and Marky, are no longer school aged. My oldest daughter, Mariah, got engaged in Ireland last April and got married this July at St. Anne's. And all 3 of them work in the city. They live in the city. They want to stay in the city and raise families in the city. So I'm 57 years old. A lot of my friends don't have that luxury. Most of their children had to leave because there was no opportunity. They're having grandchildren, which I'm looking forward to, hopefully in the near future. But they have to go to Virginia to see their kids and their grandkids because they had to leave because of no opportunity. So am I doing it for them? Yeah, I'm doing it for them. I'm doing it for your kids. I'm doing it for your grandkids. We need to restore some economic growth here, opportunities here, so our families can stay here and not have to leave because there's no opportunity. You can leave because of choice, that's one thing, but my daughter said to me, they said, Dad, we have faith in you, and we're behind you, so please, on November 5th, I humbly ask for your vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Jessica Rothchild, you've got 2 minutes for your closing statement.
Thank you again for having us here tonight. I want to take a moment just to thank all the voters who voted for me in the primary. It means so much, and I'm really proud of the campaign that we've been running, and we have not stopped. The summer we were still at it, and I feel that I've worked hard throughout the campaign, and I'm going to work just as hard for the people of Scranton. When things happened with the mayor, I thought that voters would feel discouraged and disappointed and unmotivated. But instead, it's really been the opposite. I've felt the excitement that I have all along on the campaign trail talking to voters. They want new leadership. They want someone who has fresh ideas, and I feel that I can give them just that. I did not grow up here, and I think that's perfectly okay. People actually really appreciate that I chose to stay here after school, and I stayed here because I love Scranton, and I want other people to love Scranton just as much as I do, and to make it their homes, because it's my home. So please vote for me November 5th. It would mean the world to me, and I feel that I really have a lot to bring to the table, and I look forward to serving on City Council.
Thank you. Once again, thank you to all of our candidates for being here. Remember to vote on November 5th. We'll be voting for 2 of these candidates, electing them on November 5th. Thank you for being here tonight.